There's a couple exciting gaming news stories we have to talk about today, starting with E3 2023 being officially confirmed for both a in-person and digital event with a brand new company leading the charge on the organization side of things. Then the big talking point for today's video has to do with a very interesting patent that just popped up online showing Nintendo is looking into some very interesting graphical technology around potentially better frame rates and graphics coming to the Nintendo Switch in the future. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below, hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. Now, as I mentioned, guys, we got a couple different big stories to unpack today. We have to kick it off with a conversation around the big return of E3 2023, because I don't know about you all, you can argue that yes, over the years as time has gone on, E3 has not quite been the showcase that it once was, where we had every single major company, being Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, and all of the major third-party publishers, a part of the event in both a physical presence and digital presence. And we would even see things like their brand new consoles revealed at this hype E3 summer event every year in and year out. It is not that anymore, and it definitely hasn't been in recent years. And of course, in light of the pandemic, we've also had a very spotty track record with whether or not E3 would be a thing at all, as it was originally fully canceled in 2020, came back as a digital only event in 2021, and then most recently, of course, the full cancellation of both in-person and digital once again in 2022, which I definitely felt the effects of. I think a lot of other people did. Yes, there were still hype showcases from all of the companies in their own right, but everything felt very disorganized, and we had no clue when to expect any of those presentations to take place. And I just think that the structure of a E3 style showcase is really what we need as gamers. I've always called it gamers Christmas. It is a week of that. It is literally a week of scheduled announcements for all of the biggest things of the year in gaming, and I feel like it creates a little bit of competition amongst the brands to almost try to outperform each other and really steal the show and walk away with the biggest announcements being talked about online after that super hype week of punch in, punch out announcements with top tier new games and sometimes even hardware. And the reason this is in the news today is not only do we receive now official confirmation that it's coming back, but it will actually have a brand new organizer behind it, which is a great thing because the ESA is primarily the company that's been called into questions here. And while the ESA is still going to be a part of this event and actually be hosting it, there's going to be somebody else that is known in the gaming industry for putting on great showcases, actually running and organizing everything behind the scenes. To get on the exact same page with exactly what's been said here, let's quickly hop over to VGC and read through their detailed article together. PAX organizer ReedPop is officially taking over E3. Will reshape what didn't work. The veteran event company pledges to create a new benchmark for video game expos. The Entertainment Software Association, or ESA, announced the news on Thursday following recent confirmation that the flagship show will return in June 2023 for its first in-person event in 4 years. As well as running high-profile events in the US and Europe, ReedPop is the owner of Gamer Network, which runs websites such as Eurogamer, GamesIndustry.biz, VG247, and Rock Paper Shotgun, and is the network partner of VGC. Commenting on the news, ReedPop said E3 2023 would welcome back publishers, developers, journalists, content creators, manufacturers, buyers, and licensors, and also highlight digital showcases and feature in-person consumer components. It claimed it had listened to the feedback from the gaming community and would honor what's always worked about the games industry event while reshaping what didn't. So listen, while this is extremely exciting news on the surface, and I personally am very ready to see E3 come back in a big way next year, it also all depends on the partnerships that they secure, because unfortunately, with a spotty track record over the last 4 or 5 years, we now have a very discombobulated lineup of companies that sometimes align themselves with E3 and other times don't. And in light of a couple full cancellations that we've seen over the last few years, well, now do these big names like Nintendo come back? Microsoft, I would imagine they probably stick with E3. I even think companies like Nintendo come back to E3 with not missing a beat, although that's not confirmed and we can't say that for certainty. But do they get the names like Sony back that actually ditched the event quite a while ago? And do they come back in a big in-person way with their own games on display and the own in-person Nintendo Treehouse type events? And then you have booths where you can test demo some of these games that aren't out yet. Like, what is the scale of this going to be? However, one positive note about ReedPop now getting behind this and running the planning section of everything is that we thought that 2022 there was going to be an E3. In fact, it was supposed to be in person. Then we got confirmation later on that the in-person portion was canceled. Then later on than that, we got the confirmation it was canceled altogether, but they weren't reaching out to companies or trying to schedule anything on the books until a few months before the event was scheduled to actually take place. So we had no confirmation, no advanced planning, and ReedPop's already trying to get the vendors and everybody lined up right now in the middle part of 2022 with essentially a full year just about advance notice for all of these companies. So we're going to know sooner rather than later what kind of big brands will be a part of next year's E3 event. And I love to see it, them taking this seriously, even going out of their way to mention gamer feedback being a big thing to them, because to be fair, E3 hasn't been the massive showcase that it once was, and people have obviously called that out and they're acknowledging that. So it's up to us now to give them a chance, ReedPop being, to revive E3 to its former glory. And if we do see something like the Sony showcase, the Microsoft showcase, and the Nintendo showcase all come back in the summertime in 2023, I personally could not be more excited for it. I want to hear from you guys on this particular topic. How do you feel about E3 and its progression over the years? There's definitely a section of the audience that feels like events like this really aren't necessary anymore, and I get that perspective because companies can communicate directly with their consumers, but I still think it's a celebration of gaming at the end of the day, and I love to see it. But I want to hear how you guys feel about it, and if you think that maybe the window has passed for these major mainline companies to all participate and they won't come back, or do you think that ReedPop has some special things planned, maybe adjustments on rates on how much it costs, and with this advanced planning that we do have a shot of having E3 back in full force in 2023. So please share all your thoughts and feelings on all things E3 next year in the comments down below. Now, the other story we're talking about today has to do with Nintendo and a very interesting patent that was just spotted online referencing AI upscaling graphical technology that Nintendo is working on themselves. Now, whether or not this ties into stuff like a future console or could be implemented on the current Switch, there's a lot of different variables. Whether or not they actually bring it out at all remains to be seen, to be clear with this, because patents do not mean that they were for sure going to come to market with it. However, it is interesting that they are pursuing multiple different ways to get the most life out of either their current gen console, or this could very well be for something down the road in terms of a true Switch 2 or Switch Pro. We're not going to talk about that again today, but regardless, it is refreshing to see Nintendo tap into technologies like this because it allows for things like more smooth frame rates. People say the Switch's graphics are fine. Some of them say it's not fine. I'm kind of middle of the road. I am okay with playing the Switch on how it looks today. However, being a gaming enthusiast, I would like it to work with things like native 4K resolution on my LG OLED just to have the smoothest image quality possible. And while gameplay is always king at the end of the day, a nice smooth image and a good consistent frame rate with no dips definitely is icing on that already great cake. And while some Nintendo Switch titles run fantastic, you are definitely starting to see the hardware age, and we've even seen some third-party titles utilize these type of AI upscaling or just upscaling technologies in general, most notably being games like Life is Strange True Colors and even Nintendo Switch Sports, both using AMD FSR or FX Super Resolution. That's essentially an image upscaler but doesn't lean into so much of the AI type of thing. And then of course the long-standing rumors that Nintendo's working with Nvidia on DLSS, that's still in the cards. So whatever this is for their own in-house technology is an interesting one. And to get on the same page with what's been claimed here, let's quickly hop over to Go Nintendo, where they have a detailed article typed up with what's been spotted online. Nintendo patent aims to upscale low-res images via machine learning. It's all becoming clear. A handful of Nintendo patents and trademarks have popped up recently, and the latest patent filed by the Big N has some interesting ties to low and high res images. This patent in particular aims to cover low res images to higher res images through machine learning. Now, this wouldn't be able to magically convert images from blurry to pixel perfect, but it would certainly go a long way in upscaling lesser quality images to something a bit more presentable. There are quite a few Switch games that suffer from a bit of blurriness, especially in handheld mode. Having something like this upscaling would be nice, and there's no doubt developers could benefit from it. That said, just like all patents from Nintendo, you never know if this is something Nintendo is simply looking in to protect or is actively working on applying to their games. So this story is definitely a wait and see scenario with how if Nintendo implements this technology at all, but I do enjoy the conversation around Nintendo looking into multiple different avenues, not just a beefier GPU or a better Tegra chip in their hybrid console to get things like better graphical textures, a better quality overall, and just better frame rates and better enjoyable gameplay experiences at the end of the day. If they can do it through AI upscaling, which is definitely a cutting edge technology right now, I think you do that and push the hardware to the limits as far as you can go 5+ years into the Switch being available, and then maybe we start to see some of those cloud ports that we wanted to have native ports. Not saying it can't be done, but clearly there's extra development dollars that go into putting in the work to get certain third-party games to run on the Switch, that with more capable, powerful hardware or very new advanced AI style technologies may allow for things like less chugginess on the frame rate, easier development cycles for some of these ports making it to the Switch. And ultimately, if we went out with a better library of games, whether it be on the current generation Switch, a revised Switch, or whatever the next Switch 2 is, as long as that's hopefully, for the love of God, it's got to be backwards compatible. If Nintendo doesn't do backwards compatible with their next console, that will be like legitimately their biggest misstep ever, because if we're talking about something more powerful that still keeps its hybrid formula, that also gets a larger library of third-party games, and they have things running super smooth with these new technologies that are upscaling everything through AI, like, it is a promising future and an exciting time to be a Nintendo fan, in my opinion. And while we do wait and see what happens with any kind of future hardware, it's definitely good for Nintendo to do a broad stroke approach to all different technologies to help Switch games run better now and in the future, and hopefully just see wider support for more third-party ports going over. I'm looking at you, Elden Ring. I want to play you on my Switch. I want to play Dark Souls 2 and 3 on the Switch, and there's so many others that I think can be done if it just has that little bit of extra horsepower that we are needing it to have. So whether or not this patent is a step towards that or not, we will have to wait and see. I want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, both the different stories we talked about today. How are you feeling about E3 and them being scheduled to come back in a big way in 2023? And definitely share with me what you think about this new patent that's been spotted with Nintendo and image up-resing technology using things like AI. Are you a fan of it and you do think that we need things like smoother frame rates and better texture qualities on the base Switch? Are you in the camp that you really think everything is fine for the foreseeable future with the current amount of power that the Switch has, and you're not bothered by some of the third-party ports that don't come over? And bonus question, definitely share with me whether or not you think we will see them utilize brand new technology on the current model of Switches, or if this is something that is referencing new hardware further down the line in the future. So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, where we discussed the latest free game trial to hit NSO and a broad discussion around the Switch OLED Splatoon Edition reveal and why the Switch Pro rumors will not be going away anytime soon after some new information was spotted online. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.